historic Route 66 in the small town of Atlanta, Illinois, the road has always told stories. Some are painted on signs, some stand quietly at the edge of town, and some tower over the landscape, reminding us of a time when America built big, bold, and unforgettable things. This is the story of the American Giants Museum, and how it began, how it was built, and how a new era is now taking shape. The roots of the American Giants Museum stretch back more than a decade. In the summer of 2012, while filming the very first episodes of American Giants, I met Bill Thomas while filming the hot dog giant using a GoPro mounted to the top of a microphone boom pole, an unusual setup that caught his attention. Bill was curious why we were putting so much effort into documenting these roadside figures. But he completely understood the connection. Bill recognized what these giants represented. Not just pop culture icons, but powerful tourist draws, storytellers of America's roadside past. It was Bill who worked hard to get the Bunyan Giant to Atlanta years before.
Tomorrow they're going to repaint the whole thing.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, tomorrow?
Tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning.
We have to come back here and wait
Oh,
down.
wow, yeah.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Come back, yeah.
Yeah.
A few years later, in 2014, Bill invited me to speak about Muffler Men at a dinner party. It was sometime around then, in conversation, almost offhandedly, that the idea of a museum first surfaced. At the time, it was only an idea, but it never went away. For years, the concept lingered, growing more serious as more giants were discovered, restored, and documented. By 2020, these conversations shifted from what if to how. By May of 2021, Bill was actively searching for properties in Atlanta, Illinois, looking for a place that could support not just a museum, but a destination along Route 66. At first, we focused on an old car wash building just a few blocks north of the current museum location. But it quickly became clear the building and the site just wouldn't work. That's when Bill turned his attention to another property, an old gas station from the 1960s. It was already part of Route 66 history, even though the gas station was now completely gone, and only the lot remained. By late 2021, the property was purchased by the Atlanta Betterment Fund, a nonprofit dedicated to strengthening tourism in Atlanta along the Mother Road. The design for the American Giants Museum didn't come from a blueprint book. It came from the road, it came from travels, and it was linked, oddly, to another giant.
I'd like to purchase them and restore them so other people can enjoy them. He's been in the back of this field for years.
On the same trip I met Bill, I discovered a long-lost Muffler Man at an abandoned campground in Wisconsin. In 2016, I went back and purchased the giant and dug into his history. The Bunyan once stood in Chicago in the 1960s, and although he looked nothing like his glory days, his history was too good to leave him the way he was. And after an extensive restoration, we sold the giant to Tim Thompson in Elkton, Kentucky at Cumberland Ridge Forest Products.
Whoa!
During the installation, Tim showed us a garage he had built, designed to look like a classic Texaco station. I never forgot it. In 2022, I shared photos of the garage with Bill. He passed them along to contractors, and that roadside Texaco-style structure became the inspiration for the American Giants Museum. The building design centered around one specific giant, the Texaco Big Friend. I first discovered the Big Friend in Pahrump, Nevada in 2012. Originally, he had stood on the Las Vegas Strip before being recommissioned to a mobile home business on the Boulder Highway. Eventually, that business moved to Pahrump, where he stood atop a giant sign until the business closed and he was left to rot. I visited him a few times and eventually was able to purchase him in 2016. He was badly damaged, but his history made him impossible to ignore. The plan was always to restore him fully and place him beside a Texaco-style building, just as he would have stood decades ago. Stan Kane was brought in to design the building structure and create the blueprints, and hours of dedication began on his part. Stan made many trips to Atlanta and walked around the empty lot making sure all the details were correct for what we envisioned would soon stand there. In September of 2022, concrete was poured for the museum's main building. In early October, the structure went up, and for the first time, the museum was no longer an idea. It was real. In November of 2022, we arrived in Hot Springs, Arkansas to deliver a custom toe man, Muffler Man, to a collector named Lee Woods. During that visit, Lee also sold us a 1959 Texaco sign destined for the museum.
Sign's got a little dirt on it, but we'll get it wiped off before we deliver it tomorrow, once we get done running on the roads.
Regiant played a major role in restoring and installing the sign, and would continue to be our go-to company for transport, restoration, and installation of the Giants. They have been with us since the very beginning, setting up each and every Giant that has gone up. At the time, none of us realized how important that meeting with Lee would eventually become. In May of 2023, the American Giant sign was constructed and mounted on the building. Bill also was working hard to create all of the interpretive panels and info inside the building to tell the story of the Texaco Big Friend. I was sending him dozens of vintage pictures and pages of historical information. On June 1st, 2023, the full shipment of fiberglass figures for the museum interior arrived from American Giants. CBS Good Morning America was also on site that day to document the event. June and July were spent installing figures, laying new museum floor, and mounting more interpretive panels. Outside work continued. The first pedestal in the Land of the Giants rest area was poured in June. More followed in July, and by August of 2023, all pedestals were complete. In early June 2023, the first full-size Muffler Man arrived. A Snurd from Ohio, and the first Muffler Man I purchased back in 2012. With the Snurd standing outside, visitors began stopping in. By August, guests walking through the museum could see finished exhibits and even parts of the Texaco Big Friend himself as restoration continued. Figures like the Tiger, Mama Burger, and several smaller displays were already on view. By September 2023, the new museum floor was complete and limited public hours began. In October, the gas pumps arrived outside after the slab was poured, completing the classic roadside attraction. That same month, replica heads crafted by Mark Klein arrived and were suspended from the ceiling, showing the many variations of Giants produced by International Fiberglass. Throughout the build, Bill Thomas and his team installed interpretive panels that brought the Giants' history to life, especially those detailing the Texaco Big Friend and the story of International Fiberglass. These panels didn't just explain what visitors were seeing, they explained why it mattered. In early 2024, after years of painstaking work, the Texaco Big Friend was finally complete. He had been severely damaged in Nevada, and restoring him required an extraordinary amount of effort. That year, we held the museum's grand opening. Collectors and enthusiasts traveled from across the country. Giants arrived, stories were shared. The American Giants Museum was officially on the map.
2, 3,
Gearhead is here today. Yeah, right there. We got Lee Woods. He
is from Hot Springs, Arkansas, and he has a bunch of giants, and he's getting a lot more. And Aaron, where's Aaron? Aaron, yeah, so Aaron. Once again, Lee Woods played a key role, helping us acquire a waving giant from Bartlett, hauling the Gemini giant down for the weekend, and assisting with the setup of the Texaco Big Friend. Lee was becoming more than just a customer. He was becoming a trusted part of our team. He built relationships with Re-Giant for work he needed on his own giants. He built a relationship with American Giants as he learned about the giants and their history and other international fiberglass objects, and also a relationship with the Atlanta Betterment Fund. Lee was all in from the very start. Things were happening. Visitors poured in all summer long. In 2025, rotating exhibits inside the museum continued to grow. Visitors encountered an original Bob's Big Boy statue, a full collection of Muffler Men heads, a Uniroyal foot, and an original traffic stopper, also known as a professional. Each visit offered travelers something new, and that was our goal. In 2025, another rare piece of roadside history took its place at the museum, an original Phillips 66 Cowboy, fully restored by Mark Klein. I originally found that giant in Georgia. All right, the long-lost Muffler Man of Douglas, not Douglas, actually Gray, Georgia. The sighting was, and there he is, man, to search for so many years and be interested in the Douglas Muffler Man, and then to finally figure out that it's back in the woods like this. You know, all these years, came back here in the 90s, and then, it's in rough shape. That looks nothing like the picture, but it's so cool to just see something like that in the rough. You know, this thing has been laying out here for, 30 years. Look at that. In the 1990s, he stood at a small car lot in Gray, Georgia, before being removed and stored deep in the woods on private property. In March of 2024, I retrieved the figure and confirmed it was an original Phillips 66 Cowboy that once stood in Macon. Today, he stands at the American Giants Museum, alongside an original International Fiberglass Viking on loan from another of our good friends and fellow collector. After 3 years of operation under the Atlanta Betterment Fund, whose vision and dedication made the museum possible, a new chapter began. The museum property and building were purchased by Lee Woods. Moving forward, American Giants and Lee will work together as partners. Now, instead of one collection feeding the museum, there are two. This allows exhibits to rotate, history to deepen, and new giants to arrive, keeping the experience fresh year after year. This coming year, the first Muffler Man will be supplied by Lee and will be a spaceman. In the mid-1960s, as the space race captured the world's imagination, International Fiberglass altered their standard Bunyan Muffler Man design, creating a spaceman that reflected America's obsession with a space program. The giant was painted with a gold spacesuit, given a large space helmet, and a sign to hold. The first spaceman was built for Astro Oil, and he appeared at several Astro Oil stations in the Los Angeles area, before deteriorating at a station in Maywood and eventually was discarded in the 1970s. Only 4 Spacemen versions are known to have existed, the others being located at Coney Island, Ocean City, in Wilmington, Illinois. Lee's Spaceman is a custom replica of the very first Astro Oil figure, and it represents a fascinating chapter in the evolution of the Muffler Man. This coming year, another important chapter of Muffler Man history arrives at the American Giants Museum. For nearly 60 years, an Indian brave stood in Bemidji, Minnesota, outside of Morrell's Chippewa trading post, just across the street from the famous Paul Bunyan and Blue Ox. Installed in the mid-1960s, the Giant became a local landmark, moving only once during its entire time in Bemidji. Over time, the Brave became known locally as Nanabojo, named after a figure from Ojibwa legend whose story is closely tied to Paul Bunyan, making his position across the street from the Bunyan especially fitting. On March 31, 2025, at around 9 in the morning, work began to carefully take the Giant down.
With the metal structure in him, we just don't think that the front bolts can handle the weight, so these guys are cutting the bolts off now. Then we'll lift his torso off, then we'll take care of the legs.
After nearly 6 decades outdoors, his internal structure had severely deteriorated, requiring him to be removed in sections. After 3 hours of work, Giant loaded him onto a trailer and transported him to Illinois. The Indian Brave will receive a partial restoration, enough to stabilize and present him safely, while preserving his vintage appearance and the Bemidji history. Lee is already planning improvements to the American Giants Museum and working with Joel on new exhibits, including the 2 new arrivals. Lee also plans to transform a nearby building into a Route 66 themed shop, adding treats and merchandise and further strengthening Atlanta as a destination. In 2026, Atlanta will feature more Muffler Men than any other stop along Route 66, the Muffler Man capital of the Mother Road. The museum season will expand, and free admission will continue, with donations always welcome. All of these moments, all of these people, all of these giants, each played a role in getting us here. Built on a foundation of preservation, community, and passion, the American Giants Museum now enters a new era. And we want to pause to thank our local community who have been there for us, volunteering their time at the museum and welcoming Route 66 visitors to Atlanta, Illinois. With Lee Woods and American Giants working together, the future holds more history, more exhibits, and more giants than ever before. The road is still calling, and the giants are still rising.